Hi, my group, the Winner Circle group. Hi, Periscope. Hi, Facebook Live. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna jump right to this. We're gonna be talking about today Johnson and Johnson, and we're also gonna be talking about the opioid crisis. If some of you guys have known that Johnson and Johnson just lost a just had a judgment against them related to the opioid crisis out of the state, not North Carolina, um, Oklahoma. So, welcome. My name is Delia. I am the owner of D&T Investment and Consulting, where I teach people how to invest in the stock market. If you need to get in contact with me, please reach me via Messenger. Um, you also can reach me on either email, which is dtinvestmentglobal@mail.com, dtinvestmentglobal@mail.com, or you can reach me on my website, which is www.dtinvestmentglobal.com, www.dtinvestmentglobal.com. And I am Delia. I love to learn about the stock market. Just anything about the ins and the outs of the stock market. I actually enjoy doing it. So when I found out that Johnson and Johnson was going through a little bit trials and tribulations related to the opioid crisis, I was like, this will be definitely a teaching moment for the people, so they can see a little more in depth what's going on with the company and what's going on in terms of the opioid crisis that's happening around the country. Which the country I mentioned is United States, because I know I have a lot of people that be listening to me on via live or replay, which is on Periscope, and they're logging in from different countries other than United States. I have people that's contact me from Brazil, different different places, which is pretty cool. Africa, all kinds of places. But anyways, we're gonna get started. So let's talk about Johnson and Johnson first. So Johnson and Johnson is definitely a brand name here in the United States. Is a big company, and anytime I get up here talking about a company, is a teachable moment. Anything that I say is used for education and training purposes. I'm not giving you the thumbs up to go invest in a company. Just providing you financial, not financial, but tips that will help you learn the stock market journey. So Johnson & Johnson is a company that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So you have this big company that's broken into three parts, which that is Johnson & Johnson. This company was established in 1887. So we have a well-established company that's been up the pipeline for a very long time, and is listed on one of the largest stock exchanges there is, which is the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, so the price per share for this company is, when I've checked, it was $128 per share. Now remember, when I speak about a company, the price can change, because while the stock market is open, the stock of shares go up and down throughout the duration when the stock market was open. So the 52-week average for this stock was $121 all the way to $148. So it has a market cap of $342 billion, and it has a P/E ratio of 21. And it was interesting because they have a dividend to all these dividend holders out here. Whoop, whoop. So it has a dividend of 2.98%. Is in the healthcare sector, which that was very interesting as well. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that Johnson & Johnson has so many employees. They have 135,000, over 135,000 employees. I was like, wow, that's a lot of employees. So we have this company, and this company is broken down into three parts. 1, 2, 3. So what they do, they sell, Johnson & Johnson sell, develop, manufacture healthcare products. So when you think of opioid and the crisis that the United States is in related to the opioid crisis, people may say, oh wow, that was a big judgment against Johnson & Johnson. But think about this. Johnson & Johnson is one of the companies that sell, develop, manufacture healthcare products. Okay, so now we have Johnson & Johnson that is broken into 3 sections, which is the consumer section. In this section, you may have seen your Listerine, you may have seen your Benadryl, your Stay Free products, the feminine products. Johnson & Johnson have sold a list of things that they sell. And you also have the second section of Johnson & Johnson, which is the pharmaceutical section. So in the pharmaceutical section, you have your oncology things, cardiovascular, and all different type of things that they do as well. And then you have the third section of Johnson & Johnson, which is the medical device section. And then this section, you have your orthopedics items. You have your general surgery section. So when you think about Johnson & Johnson and the things that they have going on as a whole is very widespread. So Johnson & Johnson is able to sell to people on an individual level. Like you and I can go into a store. We can purchase Listerine. We can purchase Benadryl. We can purchase general supply items. And then you have Johnson & Johnson that sell items to corporations and companies as well. So they pretty much have a well-rounded target market. Remember what I said, they broke it down into 3 sections: the consumer, pharmaceutical, and medical device section. Also, so you have them selling items to your retail outlets, the distributor, you also the wholesale, hospitals, healthcare professionals. Remember with the medical devices, so you will have the hospitals and healthcare professionals purchasing items from Johnson & Johnson. So why did Johnson & Johnson receive a good judgment? Because of the opioid crisis. Because in the state of Oklahoma is having in many states, as well as the state that I live in, is having an epidemic with opioid drugs, and Johnson & Johnson is one of the individuals, one of the companies that produce this product. So that's why Johnson & Johnson, as well as other companies, are on the hot seat in terms of the opioid crisis. Like I said before, that Johnson & Johnson sell, develop, manufacture healthcare products. So Johnson & Johnson, and specifically, sells prescription opioids, and they supply other drug companies with the opioid ingredients. Not only do they sell it, they supply other companies with the ingredients as well. So what happened in the state of Oklahoma, which is in United States, for the people that will be listening to me on Periscope, that I'm in United States. So Oklahoma is a state in the United States for you guys that will be listening to me on Periscope. Okay. So the state of Oklahoma sued Johnson & Johnson because of the epidemic that was occurring within their state, which is a crisis. It's just out of control, as well as it's out of control in our state as well. So Oklahoma stated that Johnson & Johnson is responsible for their state's opioid crisis. That's what they're saying. And so the problem comes in when they said that Johnson & Johnson put out an ad. So you have this big corporation that, remember I told you 3 parts. They got a consumer part, pharmaceutical part, part, as well as a medical supply. But within their pharmaceutical section, they put out a misleading ad. And this misleading ad was able to market a campaign to convince the public, people like you and I, to tell us that opioid had little risk. remember what I said in the beginning. So the problem comes in where Johnson & Johnson put out an ad to the people, and it was misleading them and said it didn't have a lot of risks. So they pretty much convinced the public that it was minimal risk. That's why they was able to. That's why the state of Oklahoma was able to receive a judgment against them for $527 million. So you have to take in consideration when you think about what's going on in the stock market. Listen, everything is like a circle. You guys work with me in my drawing, okay? Everything is just like this. It's like it's revolving constantly going on and on. So we have an opioid crisis. We have, not only did a company put out a misleading advertising stating that we have the doctors that's writing prescription, that they get the medicine directly from pharmaceutical companies such as Johnson & Johnson. So sometimes that the doctors may know the potential effects to certain medicines. I'm not a physician, so I'm not saying that some of the people that was writing the prescriptions knew the severity of what was actually gonna cause. But there are so many people that's actually dying because of prescription misuse and related to the Oxycontin. And so their order, the judgment was, hi, welcome everybody when you come on. When the judgment stated that there were over 2,000 cases on hold and related to, now we have the drug makers, we have the retail pharmacy chains, and we have the distributors from companies. All these people are held accountable in terms of the opioid crisis. That's what's causing the news and causing Johnson & Johnson's as well as other pharmaceutical companies to be on the hot seat. The opioid crisis increased in that state, which is the state of Oklahoma, which got the big judgment of $527 million that they won a settlement about 2 days ago. So from 1994 to 2006, that's when the opioid crisis, and that's when everything went haywire. In that state, it stated that they issue so many Oxycontin drugs that there was 326 million opioid pills given to people in the state of Oklahoma. I said, gee, that's a lot of pills. It was so many pills, it was enough for every single adult in the state of Oklahoma to have at least 110 pills. That's how many pills were dispensed in the state of Oklahoma. So we all know it's like a revolving thing when it comes down to substance abuse. A lot of people don't really talk about substance abuse and talk about things like that because it seems like, anybody can kind of get a hold of someone pills and stuff like that. If you're at somebody's house or a child give it to you or whatever the case may be. But it's like a silent abuse kind of sort of. So it became a problem because people was going from one doctor to another doctor to receive prescriptions, because they was doing that in the state of North Carolina as well. So they put a restriction on it. If one doctor was saying no, they would go to another doctor to receive a prescription. So it's not only Oklahoma where the epidemic is in the state that I live in, which is North Carolina, is an epidemic, and people are dying because of this crisis that's taking place in our state. They're constantly, trying to come up with solutions, as well as substance abuse awareness related to the opioid crisis that's in our state as well. So it's not just Oklahoma that's facing this thing, but it is out now because of the judgment that was just that the state of the settlement that the state of Oklahoma received. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So within their pharmaceutical section, Johnson and Johnson, of course, they are able to, manufacture and sell things related to cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, immune diseases. So those diseases can be a laundry list, and is causing the problem. And the shares actually fell when it was announced. So when you think of the stock market, and I gave you the stock information because I like to tie everything back to the stock market because that's my foundation. So you always consider, will this company be here in the next 10 years? At the beginning, I told you guys when Johnson & Johnson, when they came out, which is 1887. 1887. So now we're in 2019. Just because there was a settlement of $527 million for Johnson & Johnson, which they are trying to appeal, will Johnson & Johnson company fall because of the opioid crisis? When you think in terms of purchasing a stock, selling a stock, or just having it on your wait list, or just dumping it, don't want anything to do with it, you have to think about, is this the event that caused the stock to rise or fall? Is the company going bankrupt, or is it some great product which caused the company to go up? Will this company be here in the next 10 years? Could I consider this on my short-term goal list? This company, can it be in my short-term? Could I reach short-term goals by having this company, medium or large? Always think about the events that happen in the news and tie them to the stock itself. And don't focus on the stock as being, this is the stock. Think about, this is my business. You always have to tie it back to the root. Get down to the foundation. Check Johnson & Johnson financials. Has this company been progressing throughout these years? Or is this company about to go bankrupt? So you have a laundry list of things to consider when thinking about purchasing a company related any stock. Don't necessarily think about the event and think of the shares falling. Is they falling because the event took place? Or is they rising because the event took place? There's a lot of things to consider when actually purchasing a company. Yes, the state of Oklahoma just received a $527 million settlement from the company Johnson & Johnson. But was the fall or the decrease in the stock when it happened, is that a good time for you to buy? Is that a good time for you to sell? Or is that a good time for you to just watch the company? Or you don't want anything to do with it? That's what you have to make that determination. Also, you have to look at your tech analysis. You also have to look at your fundamental analysis to make that decision. Check the charts. I love charts. Check them to make sure. to do your trend analysis to see if that's a good company that you can purchase or not. But I just want to get up here and I want to tell you guys about Johnson & Johnson and the opioid crisis, which is the news stated in Oklahoma, but it is all over the United States. It is definitely an epidemic. And you guys, just be careful. And contact me if you have any questions. My name is Delia, and I am the owner of D&T Investment and Consultant LLC. And you guys have a great day.